and welcome to Checkpoint. Woo! I hope you are doing good. So how are you? How was the day? Hope it was good. I'd like to start by saying thank you, and thank you again to everyone who has been watching Checkpoint so committedly. We are indeed grateful. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your shares. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you for clicking on that notification button. Because of all of these things that you do, the message is is reaching a wider audience. And for this, we want to say thank you, and thank you again. Now it's time for Checkpoint, and as you know, we always bring you very quality and edifying content. I'd like you to do something for me. Please go ahead, share, and share again. Take just a few seconds and share this link. Share this link to your friends, share it to your relations, share it to your associates, and share it to your neighbors. Make sure you are sharing this link to somebody who needs it, because always at Checkpoint, we bring you content that equips, edifies, and empowers you to become the very best version of yourself. I can't wait to bring you the topic for today, and I know it's going to be a huge blessing to you. So what are you waiting for? Please go ahead and share. I am waiting for you. I am waiting for you. All right. I like to watch you share. Just go ahead and share. All right. Make sure that you're giving this to somebody. Share it to your family groups. Share it to the groups that you belong to. I know it will be a blessing to somebody. There are people that you know may be going through a lot of stuff, but you may not be able to talk to them directly. But just sharing that video will be a life-saving activity. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead and share. All right. So I will be right back after the break, and then I will tell you today's topic. Are you ready? All right. See you later. Welcome back. Now today on Checkpoint, we have a very spicy, interesting, powerful topic for you. And today's topic on Checkpoint is simple: how to prevent domestic violence in marriage and relationships. How to prevent domestic violence in marriage and in relationships. A lot has happened as regards domestic violence, especially in our time, and most importantly, even in our country here. Lots and lots of things have happened, stories that really tear the hearts into pieces. And we want to say no to these occurrences, all right? It has happened. It should not continue to happen. In case you are someone here out there and you're going through domestic violence in your marriage or your relationship, this video is for you. And in case you're out there, you have a very beautiful and blossoming marriage, there is somebody, a friend, a sister, a brother, an uncle, an aunt that is going through domestic violence in their marriage, and they need this video. Now, this video is not gender specific at all. It's for both males and females. So the least you can do is to share this video to them. Now, let's talk about domestic violence. According to the United Nations, they have a definition for domestic violence. The United Nations define domestic violence as a pattern of behavior in any relationship whatsoever that is used to manipulate, that is used to maintain power or control, and thereby manipulating an intimate partner. Let me take that all over again. Domestic violence, according to the United Nations, describes domestic violence as a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or obtain or maintain power or control over another intimate partner, thereby manipulating such a one. Now, think of all the ways through which an intimate person, an intimate partner is trying to manipulate the other person. Is trying to gain power, is trying to gain control, is trying to make the person not to do things according to their own will, but by force or by manipulation. Any of such things that you know of is called domestic violence. Now, somebody might be saying this is a very wide definition. of domestic violence, but it is all about making the other person in the relationship not to be happy, not to be comfortable, not to have the bliss that's supposed to be in marriage. There are many, many forms of domestic violence, but I'm going to just mention 5 different types of domestic violence. The number 1 type of domestic violence, the one that most of us are very conversant with, is what we call physical violence, physical domestic violence. Now, when it comes to physical domestic violence, it has to do with either pushing somebody, it has to do with slapping somebody, it has to do with beating somebody, throwing things at somebody that you are in a relationship with. Okay, there are different forms of physical domestic violence. People have gone to different lengths. Some have even killed. Now, just yesterday, I heard of a man who used a rope to strangulate his wife. I heard of another lady who had to kill somebody's wife. You know, these things are happening every day and around us. Women have lost their lives because they married men who are into domestic violence. Men have lost their lives because they married women who are into domestic violence. And I must tell you, first and foremost, that domestic violence is not a gender-specific issue. Men can be victims of domestic violence. Women can be victims of domestic violence. Now, the story comes to mind, not a story, a real-life occurrence, and I'd like to tell you this about a particular couple. This woman was a military woman. She had been trained in the tactics of battle and conquest, and she knew how to fight. She really knew where to touch the husband, and then the husband will not breathe for a while. So she had been trained to fight, you know, and then the husband was just a simple man who was just running his little business. Now, because they got married, at any slightest provocation, this woman will beat the hell out of her husband. It was so terrible, you know, because she was a military person, she could beat the guy in the you could see the man literally crying for help. Please don't tell me that that's a weak man. I know that's what some of you might say, but listen to me, that man was no weak man. Amongst his colleagues, he was also a strong man, just like he married a woman who was really skilled in fighting, and then she used every opportunity she got to deal with this guy. So any small issue they had, this woman would find herself kicking her husband or pressing there's a particular day she pressed somewhere in his thigh. He couldn't walk. He couldn't walk. Just, I don't know the particular ligament or whatever she pressed, and then the guy could not walk for days. You know, that is domestic abuse. That's domestic violence. So don't say it's only a female issue. It's also a male issue. There's another woman. This woman was extra fat, okay? No, if you see this one, even fat women call her fat, you know. And then she had a very slim husband. So with any little quarrel, this woman will carry her big bum bum and sit on the man. The man will be calling out for neighbors. Neighbors, oh, come and help me, because we're living in this face me, I face you kind of cubicle compound. So this man will be calling, neighbors, oh, come, oh, my wife wants to kill me. The worst one that happened was one day, she carried him up and put him in the deep freezer. That was the one that broke the camel's back. The marriage could not hold anymore, because it was obvious this woman was out to kill this man. So it's not just a gender specific issue. Males can be victims of domestic violence. Females can equally be victims of domestic violence. So when we talk about physical domestic violence, it has to do with all the ways through which physical pressure, physical pain is exerted on an intimate partner in marriage or in relationship. The second kind of domestic violence I'd like to talk about is verbal domestic violence. In verbal domestic violence, what happens in that case is that one person has a razor mouth. So it may not necessarily be that the person talks very fast. It may be that the person is toxic. When they open their mouth, all that comes out is negativity. All that comes out is toxic. So I've seen this kind of thing happen amongst couples. You know, there are people that when they open their mouth to talk to you, as a matter of fact, you will rather you are physically beaten than them opening their mouth to talk to you. Because when they open their mouth to speak, they speak pain. Because they're close to you. Because they're intimate. Somehow they know things about you that others don't know. So they use your past against you. They use information that they have. Maybe you are sick in every part of your body. You have an injury. You have an infirmity. You have something that you are hiding out of pain. You know, something that happened to you. A past experience that was terrible. They can use it on you. Imagine a man telling his wife who was raped as a girl because he was just angry, because he was just pissed at her, because she said, no, not today. We're not going to have anything tonight. I'm tired. Let's do this tomorrow. He said that it was that person that forced himself on her that deserved her. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You know, this thing took the lady back memory lane 15 years ago when she was raped. She cried all through. She came to see me. In fact, I didn't even know how to start. Because a toxic husband, a toxic wife is no good for anybody. You won't want to stay around any of them. So I like to inform you that verbal domestic violence exists and people are suffering it. There are women that you get married to, their mouths are razor blade. It looks as if their mouth was cooked in hell. When they open their mouth to talk to their husband, they speak evil upon the husband. There are people that when they talk to you, you physically begin to feel ill and sick at the moment just because of what they said to you. There are men who are also perpetrators of this verbal abuse. So they will say, oh, I have never slapped my wife. Oh, I have never beaten my wife. But in reality, they have used their mouth to finish that woman. Please, whichever way, whether it's from the man or it's from the woman, verbal domestic violence is not good for anybody. It's not good for anybody. You know, there are people that have been feeling, oh, I feel so innocent, so holy, so free from this. I've never placed my hand on my wife. I've never placed my hand on my husband. But your mouth, your mouth has been roasted and grilled from hell. You open your mouth, it's venom. Please, that is also domestic violence. Remember our definition of domestic violence, that it is any pattern of behavior that is used to gain or maintain power or control, thereby manipulating an intimate partner. That is the United States definition of domestic violence. And you cannot find yourself doing that to some other person that you said that you love. If you love him, you won't do that to him. If you love her, you won't do that to her. This is very, very key and so important. Number 3 kind of domestic violence is what we call emotional domestic violence. In emotional domestic violence, you may not have pushed him or her. You may not have said anything to him or her. You may have, through your inaction, you may have shown this person some level of domestic violence. Let me use this as an example. Some of you always talk about, I'm giving him the silent treatment, I'm giving her the silent treatment. Do you know that it is emotionally abusing for you to give your spouse silent treatment for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks? You know, human beings, we are not meant to dwell in isolation. We are not meant to survive in isolation. So the moment you find yourself giving a silent treatment or not being emotionally unavailable for the person that you said you love, something is wrong somewhere. It is violence of a kind. Now, I know in this era, we have many funny names for violence, or say violence and the rest of that. But please, we cannot afford to do this. Remember at the beginning you said you loved him. Remember at the beginning you said you loved her. Remember at the beginning you promised each other a lifetime of bliss and happiness. I want to ask you, what went wrong? At what point did that love fizzle away? At what point did all that you said you give to each other for the rest of your life, at what point did it fizzle away? I like you to remember those early days. Remember those early moments when you used to love each other, when you used to think about each other a lot, when you could not rest until you've heard their voice over the phone or you've seen them. remember those days and then be kind. This is very, very important. Emotional domestic violence is a real thing. There are people in their marriage, they don't talk to each other. So they come into the house, one goes up, one stays down. Some of them, they only talk when they are with people outside, but when it's just the both of them, they don't talk to each other. And that is very wrong on many fronts. So I want to encourage you, if you are married or you're in a relationship, please, emotional domestic violence is a real thing. You cannot, through your actions or inactions, show the person that you are with that you do not want them. You do know that there is a particular man that he at home, he doesn't talk to the wife at all. He doesn't even, in fact, there is no sound of laughter in their house at all whatsoever. But the moment they have visitors or the moment they are outside, you need to see this man laughing. You need to see him gisting. You need to see him playing. Now, to the outside world, everybody thinks they're having a very swell time in marriage. But in reality, this woman is suffering. The moment they come back home, he doesn't talk to her, he doesn't laugh with her, he doesn't have that time according to him. Now, this is wrong. Now, remember I said that when I'm talking about domestic violence, it is not gender specific, which means it could be male, it could be female. There are women that what you give to your boss at the office is the way you respect your boss, the way you look at your boss, the way your eyes twinkle when you look at your boss. It's not the same way your eyes twinkle when you look at your husband. When you look at your husband, you look at him with so much disdain. Now remember, there is nothing physical about it. Now remember, there is nothing verbal about it, but there is everything emotional about it. A man wants to feel welcome in his own house. A man wants to feel adored, wants to feel celebrated and honored in his own house. A woman wants to feel affectionate. You know, she wants to feel loved. She wants to feel appreciated. She wants to feel admired in her own house. Now, whether you are a husband, whether you're a wife, it is very, very important that you are careful with the way you treat your spouse. Emotional domestic violence, the way you relate with them emotionally. Okay, so some of you are physically available in your home, but you are emotionally unavailable. So you are physically present, but you don't connect with your spouse, you don't connect with your children. You are just there, but you don't care about what they are feeling or what they are going through or what's going on in their mind at that moment. That is emotional domestic violence. Now let's talk about number 4 kind of domestic violence. That is called financial domestic violence. In financial domestic violence, a spouse, it could be male, it could be female, prevents the other one from not being employed. Another scenario of financial domestic violence is that the one who makes more money withholds and does not share for the family. So there are several forms of financial domestic violence where you have more power and more control and you're usurping it, you're using it against your spouse. That should not be the situation. There are women, they can give money to anybody whatsoever, but to their spouse, they never give to their spouse. That is financial domestic violence. Now, we are expanding this definition so that in case you think that you have been doing well, you may have to sit back and have a rethink. You may need to have a rethink. There are men who they throw cash everywhere. They throw cash to their friends. They throw cash to their extended family members, but their wives never get anything from them. They are stingy to their wives, but liberal to the whole world. That is financial domestic violence. In case you don't know, this is what it is. So you cannot be Santa Claus everywhere and then at home you are super glue hand, you are Aradite, gum, nothing leaves your hand. That's a terrible way to live. Now you are working, you have what we call dignity of labor, and you have refused your spouse from working because you think they are only good to be kept at home. A particular man the other time said he doesn't want his wife to be outside working, that she will learn bad things, that she'll be corrupted by bad company. But you know what? This man goes out every day. He is not corrupted by bad company, but he believes that the wife is incapable of making decisions for herself. A full-grown woman. You did not marry a baby girl. A baby girl is meant to be protected, but you married a full-grown woman who is meant to make decisions for herself. There are women who think that a particular woman I know, because she works in a big conglomerate, she makes a lot of money. She's paid money in dollars. Now her husband is a salary earner. And if you see what happens, she would rather spend money on expensive shoes, expensive clothes, expensive jewelry, and she would not bring anything back home. And when the husband talks, I said, you're the head of the house. If you're the head of the house, take care of the house. And they would eat mega food, foods that is not even that healthy, because that's what the money can buy. But if she does not like what is cooked at home, she will just simply go outside and go to a five-star restaurant and eat whatsoever she wants. Terrible things are happening in marriage, I tell you. Terrible things are happening in marriage. These are the things that God saw and was like, oh, I can't strive with man continually, because the days of human beings' heart is evil. The thoughts of their hearts are evil. This woman, she will go to a five-star restaurant. She will eat every kind of intercontinental dish that they have on their menu. She will eat every one of them. And then she will come back home and she doesn't mind even if her husband is not eating, because they don't have children yet. So she just feels so detached. That is financial domestic violence. Don't prevent another person from having a job. Don't prevent another person from making more money. Don't prevent your spouse. You should not be sitting down and watch your spouse suffer. Let me say another one that is very important. There are some women, let me say this one, I have to say. There are some women that you have money, you have plenty money, and your husband does not have enough. And you will insist that he uses that small one. Even if he goes broke, you don't care. But you rather save up all your money for yourself. And you will never bring it out, no matter how bad things get in the home. Some of you, your husband is bearing the heavy burden of school fees, house rent, other bills in the house that have to make the family up and running. And you have money that can settle one or two bills in the house. And you refuse to do that. For no reason. That is financial domestic violence. Oh my, I'm doing this video, but I can see people owning up to their responsibility. I hope you are actually owning up to your responsibility. Now, do me a favor. Go ahead, tag somebody that has to see this video. Share it. Make sure you are sharing it. Don't stop sharing it. All right? Share. There is somebody around you, somebody in your family, somebody that needs to hear what I am saying right now. That is financial domestic violence. Remember, I've talked about physical domestic violence. I've talked about verbal domestic violence. I've talked about emotional domestic violence. I've talked about financial domestic violence. Now, let me talk about the last one, sexual domestic violence. Now, in sexual domestic violence, there are forms it can take. One of the forms of sexual domestic violence is that you force yourself on your spouse. So he's not ready, she's not ready, but you force yourself on him or her and take it, because after all, they are your spouse and it is your conjugal right, it's your conjugal benefit, and you force yourself on somebody who is saying, no, not tonight, I'm not ready. That is sexual domestic violence. Another type of sexual domestic violence is a scenario where you are constantly denying your spouse of their conjugal rights. You are constantly denying your spouse of their conjugal benefits. So you're always saying a no. It's either today I have headache, tomorrow I have waist pain, tomorrow I'm in a bad mood, and it goes on, and then a week, nothing happens. 2 weeks, nothing happens. A month. Some of you have gone months without sexual intercourse in your marriage. And I'm wondering, what are you guys doing? Are you roommates? Are you just roommates or acquaintances? What's happening? How are you living like strangers in your own home? It is an error, a strategic error, for you to live like a stranger in your own home. If you're hearing me and you're hearing me loud and clear, please type it in the comment section. I want to read. I want to read your comments. I want to see if, I want to be sure you're catching up with me. It is an error, a strategic upside down arrangement. It is an aberration. It is a misnomer for you to live like a stranger in your own home. So these are the two major forms that I would like to share with you on sexual domestic violence. The first form is when you are denying your spouse. And the second one is when you are the one taking it by force. Whichever way it is, it's not right. Do you know there are spouses that they don't make love, they practically, what they do looks like a rape situation, like they rape each other on a regular basis. So it's either he's drunk, it's either she's high or something, or drugs or something like that. This is what they do to each other on a consistent basis. This should not be. See, the home is supposed to be a place of love, a place of affection, a place of togetherness, a place of constant forgiveness, a place of love and affection. It's not supposed to be a war zone. It's supposed to be a love zone. But what I don't understand is why people make marriage so difficult. See, marriage is simple. Marriage is easy. One has to lead, the other has to follow. One has to love, the other one has to submit. That's how God has made marriage. It's not really as complicated as we make it look. In fact, it's not sometimes. Marriage involves a lot of compromise. It involves a lot of sacrifice. If you want to make it work, sometimes you're not thinking about yourself. You should be thinking about, how is what I'm doing good for him? How is what I'm doing good for her? How is what I'm doing pleasing him? How is what I'm doing pleasing her? These are the thoughts that should constantly be in your heart if you are a married person. You know, this domestic violence takes a few days in a marriage, in a relationship, when people who are toxic, who are insensitive, who are insecure, who are unempathetic come into a marriage. That's what we see. That's what happens. You should have this kind of very loving heart, a heart that knows God, a heart that is able to love. And that brings me to the 7 key ways through which you can overcome or prevent, how you can prevent domestic violence. Are you together? Are we together? All right. So let me share with you 7 ways through which you can prevent domestic violence. All right, so let's talk about the 7 key ways through which you can prevent domestic violence. Number 1 is that you need to have the love of God. Have the love of God in your heart. The Bible tells us that the love of God has been shed abroad in our hearts. Many of us do not have the love of God. If you have the love of God in you, you will not physically abuse another person. You will not verbally abuse another person. You will not emotionally abuse another person. You will not financially abuse another person. You will not sexually abuse another person. The lack of love of God in your heart is the reason why you are able to do wickedness to your spouse. Is the reason why you are able to do wickedness to your intimate partner. Is the reason why you are able to execute that kind of evil and pain on somebody who really does not deserve it. See, we have to allow the love of God to be shed abroad in our hearts. The Bible makes us to understand that if we cannot even love our brother, that we can see, how do we say we love God? There are people who are Bible reading, tongue speaking, demon chasing believers who worship God in church. They roll on the floor, they cry during worship, but at home, they are terror to their families. You know, they are the lion of the tribe of their homes. When their family hears them coming, they run into hiding simply because this person is a terror. Allow the love of God to be shed abroad in your heart. If you don't love your brother, if you don't love your sister, if you don't love your spouse that you can see, how would you say you love God, who you cannot see? How? We need to come to that point where we have this love of God, because the love of God, the Bible says that the love of God constrains us. I love that scripture. The love of God constrains us. There are things that we want to do. There are points we want to get to. There are outbursts that we want to have, you know. There are uncontrolled emotions we want to just express, but the love of God does what? constrains us. It holds us back. It prevents us from doing things that we feel we should really do. It constrains us, it holds us back, it prevents us from doing everything that is available. No, we cannot do everything. Apostle Paul said that all things are lawful, but not all things are expedient. All things are lawful, but I cannot bring myself under subjection to all of them. We have to, in fact, there is an urgent need for the love of God in the hearts of men and women. You know, media is pushing a lot of negativity, a lot of evil things, and we are now assuming that it is normal to kill, it is normal to beat, it is normal to punish, it is normal to execute pain on another person, and it is wrong. It is wrong by every count. So, let's allow the love of God to be in our heart. If there is a love of God in your heart, you will not be able to do any form of domestic violence on another person. Number 2 way to prevent domestic violence is by acquiring education. Now, when I say acquiring education, do I mean that if you have PhDs, doctorate degrees, and masters and postdoctorate degrees, you won't find yourself in a domestic violence situation? You will not see yourself perpetrating domestic violence or being a victim of domestic violence? That's not what I'm saying. When I talk about education, I'm not talking about just going to school. I'm also talking about you being educated in the right things. Now, United Nations carried out a survey, and they discovered that low literacy is a major factor in domestic violence situations. When people have found themselves in domestic violence, it has been discovered that low literacy is a major factor. So people who are not educated, who do not even know what their rights are, who do not know what is supposed to be obtainable in a marital relationship, they have these kind of problems. When I talk about education, I'm not talking about college degrees and high school degrees. I'm talking about you knowing what is supposed to be seen in your life. Let me take this example. Assuming that you are a grown-up man or a grown-up woman, I do not know that it is wrong for somebody to hit you. You will accept the hitting. A particular lady came to me some time ago, and then her husband had been physically abusing her, and she came to me because she was not happy, she was sad, and I asked her what's the situation, what's really happening. And do you know what she told me? She said that her husband, after beating her each time, will come to her and say that it is out of love for her that he beat her. And when the first time she asked him, what does he mean? He said, your father beats you, right? And she said, yes. Does your father love you? She said, yes. He said, in the same way your father loved you and he was beating you, that is how I love you and I'm also beating you. And she believed simply because she was uneducated. Not uneducated in school, but uneducated as to what she should have as her rights in marriage. So she accepted it because she has not been educated. Now, it's important that you are educated on the signs. There are several signs that help to point to a very potentially abusive person, especially when those kind of people try to separate you from your friends and family. They try to isolate you. Is a sign that this person will likely abuse you. When they are jealous of your blessings, jealous of your benefits, jealous of the things that are good happening in your life, it is a sign that this person might be an abuser. If they always, if they're embarrassed about you, they are always ashamed of you, they're never proud to show you in public, and they feel embarrassed whenever you're around them, it could be a sign. I'm not saying that this is exactly what it is, but it could be a sign. There are people who always make you feel guilty, all right? They come around you, they always make you feel guilty for everything, all right? That is also a sign. There are people who can intimidate you with their presence, their size, okay, with weapons. I will hit this knife on you, I will throw this on you, I will slap you, I will beat you. Imagine you being in a relationship. Every day, the person that you said you love is always telling you, I will slap you, I will slap you. Believe you me, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I will slap you, I will slap you. One day they will physically slap you. So please watch out for those signs when you see it. Another sign is when you see them abusing other people. You see them beating a gate man, kicking a delivery guy. It is a sign that very soon you'll be the one that's also being kicked. When you see somebody who is always, they get angry, they begin to damage your property, they begin to burn your clothes, they begin to hit on the table, break the television and stuff like that. That person that is hitting objects, it won't be long, the person will start hitting you. So you have to be educated on the signs of domestic violence. So many of us, just because we are in love, we tend to ignore these red flags, and these red flags are glaring. You know, many of these red flags are just right there in front of us, but then we see this attitudes, we see these behaviors, we see this pattern of lifestyle, and then we ignore them because, oh, we are in love, okay, we want to see the better version of them, we want to see good in them, but unawares we are selling our future into pain. We are selling our future happiness, and this should not really be so. So please, it is very, very key. Now, number 3 way through which you can prevent domestic violence is having high emotional intelligence. I cannot overemphasize on the need for each person, each individual, each spouse to have a high emotional intelligence. You know that when people are not able to understand their emotions, when they're not able to manage and control their emotions, a lot of things go wrong. Imagine 2 people who are actually in love telling themselves, I will kill you, I'll kill you, I'll kill you. You know, it's a wrong signal. I understand you may not have killed each other. I understand you may not have killed each other yet. But the mere fact that it is coming out from your mouth, the devil can key into it and destroy your glorious future and even destroy your marriage. So that is not what you want. Now, it's important that you are able to control your emotions, no matter what you are feeling, no matter the intensity of the hurt, no matter the intensity of the pain. You should be able to come to that point where you recognize what you are feeling, and beyond recognizing what you are feeling, you are able to control it. You are able to subdue and subject it and make right decisions despite your temperament. Make right decisions despite the emotions that are flaring everywhere. This is very, very key. You know, we cannot overemphasize the need for emotional intelligence. When we talk about emotional intelligence, we talk about self-awareness. You need to understand, this is how I am feeling at this moment. And then, most importantly, you should, when you understand that this is how you are feeling, it will help you to now know what to do or how to control it. You need to come to that point where you're able to control yourself. Imagine a husband pursuing the wife around the house with knife. Imagine a wife pursuing the husband around with pestle. What if the person refuses to run and does not really, and then there's no chase, and you get to where the person is? Will you really use that weapon on the person that you said you love? And then, if you do that, what do you think is going to happen? Because one thing I know about emotions is that emotions can rise, but they eventually come down. Emotions can flare up, but they eventually cool down. When they cool down, and you look back and see what you have done, many people now start saying, it's the devil. It's not me. I'm so sorry. I didn't plan to do this. I couldn't have done this. It's the devil. See, listen to me. Devil was far away. Hey, devil was busy in Afghanistan and in Libya and all those places where they are fighting wars. He was busy there. He did not even see you. He did not even see your family members. He was far away. It was you. It was all you're doing. You could not manage your emotions. You could not control your emotions. You could not allow you could not be the one in charge of your emotions. Rather, you allowed your emotions to be in charge of you. And you suffered what we call emotional hijack, a situation where your emotions now took over and decided to make decisions for you. And you don't want to be there, right? So you have to be in control of your emotions, no matter what you are feeling, part time, no matter what is going on in your life, part time. In fact, as a matter of fact, low emotional intelligence is a major reason why people engage in domestic violence. And after you see them, I'm so sorry, they beg, and after when they're done begging, the next time they repeat the same cycle again and go back to begging because they cannot control their emotions. Somebody will say, oh, you know, I'm a very angry person. I cannot control my anger. Hey, excuse me. Control your anger. Your anger control is not any other person's responsibility. It is your own responsibility. Control your anger. Control your emotions. Control what you are feeling per time. It is nobody's responsibility to control your anger. There's a particular couple, a man will always say, I am an easily angered person. This is how my father was. This is how my grandfather was. It runs in our family. So when you deal with me, you have to be you have to relate in a way that you don't have to provoke my anger. Excuse me? All of us have anger inside us, and when provoked, we react differently. So it's your responsibility to be in charge, be in control of your emotions, and not to allow your emotions to control you on the other way. Now, number 4 way through which you can prevent domestic violence is by communication. Communication is key. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Communication is the lifeline of every relationship. Every relationship you see that is working, that is blossoming, that is fruitful, that is flourishing, communication is the lifeline of that relationship. You should be able to know how to communicate with your spouse, with your significant other. You should know how to communicate. There is verbal communication, there is non-verbal communication. You should be able to know how to use both. All right, there are other ways: sign languages, genuflections, body language, all right, facial expressions. These are non-verbal cues that tell your spouse that something is wrong somewhere. You can also use your mouth. Many of us in relationship, we just assume that the person we're in a relationship with or the person we're in marriage with is a mind reader. Sometimes there is need for you to verbally open your mouth and nicely say what it is that you are feeling without affecting the other person, without insulting the other person, without manipulating the other person, without hurting the other person with your words. You can actually say what is wrong with you. You can actually say what is happening in your life without really hurting another person or manipulating another person. There is tact in communication. You need to know how to communicate using the right audio volume, using the right tone of voice, using the right words. Okay? This is very, very key. So many people are not able to resolve their conflicts in their relationships simply because they are very bad at communication. Communication is the lifeline of every relationship. You should be able to communicate effectively. Let your spouse know, this is how I feel when this happens. This is how I feel when that happens. As a matter of fact, you can communicate without hurting another person. When we talk about assertiveness is a very important skill. You should be able to say what you are feeling without hurting another person. You should be able to say what you are feeling without destroying another person. You should be able to say what you are feeling without manipulating another person. Assertiveness is key. You should be able to communicate effectively. Let him know how you feel when he does that. Let Sha know how you feel when she does what she does. Learn how to resolve conflict. As a matter of fact, I have a full video on how to resolve conflicts, and I'd like you to listen to that video because it's really help you in resolving conflicts in your marriage. Okay, so this is very, very key. Communication is key. Open your mouth and let him or her know. You see, you don't have to hit somebody to make sense. Even as a parent, I don't hit my kids all the time. It's important that I open up my mouth and let them know this is that. I know in African culture, many of us will beat kids a lot, but we can do it differently. We can do it better, right? We don't have to hit the kids all the time. We just have to open our mouth and let them know this is why you should not do this. Let them know why, the rationale behind each decision that you are taking. This is more helpful, more impactful than just hitting the kids. I do not advocate for hitting the kids because you might hit the kids in a very wrong place, and then you always would spare the rod and spoil the child. Listen to me, if you use a rod on your child, you might kill that child, and it is abuse. So you don't want to raise a generation of abusive children and they grow up looking for who to hit in their lifetime. That's not what you want. So this is very, very important. Another number 5 point I'd like to share with you on how to prevent domestic violence is that you have to avoid bad company. I really have to talk about this. Avoiding bad company. Do you know that the company you keep determines what accompanies you in life? Let me say that again. The company you keep determines what accompanies you in life. If you're the kind of person that is always hanging out with people who are hitting people, people who are always abusing verbally, abusing financially, abusing sexually, abusing physically, abusing emotionally, you would end up becoming an abuser. If you are with, if your best friends are people who are engaged, are perpetrators of domestic violence, eventually you will see yourself perpetuating that domestic violence. So please watch the company you keep. There's a company of men who will say, oh, my wife cannot control me. My wife cannot say rubbish where I am. Oh, my wife, if I tell her to sit down, she sits down. If she doesn't sit down, I discipline her. And then some of them that make that kind of noise, if you go to their house in reality, that is not how it is. Do not be deceived. There are people that they'll use in the company of others. When they have drunk to stupor, they will just be saying things that they never can do in their homes. There's a particular woman who was talking, oh, that she tells her husband to do everything, and her husband does that same thing. Eventually, it was found out that the woman was lying because her husband was even an abuser, and she was scared to the teeth for her husband. You know, things are not what they seem. What you see on social media, some of them are not true. Some of them are not true. Some people are just living the life, okay, just living on the gram and just showing you what they want you to see. Nobody posts their worst days on social media. Should I say it again? Hey, should I say it again? Nobody posts their worst days on social media. What you see is their best life, their best moments, their happy moments. They don't show you their sad moments. So be careful what you look out for, what you want to become, what you want to borrow and add into your life. Avoid bad company. On social media, you see women giving very nasty advices to other women concerning their marriages. You know, they tell you why they should not sacrifice anything, why they should not submit, why they should not. And all of this is not what they do in their own homes. Avoid them. Somebody is telling you, leave that marriage, leave it, step out now, and the person is actually in their own marriage. All right, so that's the difference when you're in an abusive marriage and the person is trying to save your life. That one you should heed to it. But then if it's not an abusive relationship and somebody is always telling you, oh, he looked at you like that, oh, just ignore, just leave him, just pack your things and go, leave that marriage now, leave that marriage now, and the person is enjoying their own, you have to sit back and ask yourself, is this really what I want out of life? So avoid bad company. Bad company will certainly, definitely corrupt you. It will make you to engage in a domestic violent marriage, and you don't want that, right? All right, let's talk about number 6. That will be the second to the last point. Now, number 6 is that you have to invest your energy in a purposeful and productive activity. This is very, very key. You know, many people who engage in domestic violence, they are cowards, they are fearful people, and they feel like this is where they can exercise power, this is where they can exercise control, this is where they can manipulate their spouse. And in reality, they don't have something else that burns their energy. They don't have something else that takes their time. As a matter of fact, if you are busy living life on purpose, if you are busy living a very productive life, you will not have time. You will not have the energy to start beating another person, to start physically giving another person injuries and pain. You need to engage yourself in an activity that is purposeful and productive. Let me say that again. Purposeful and productive. What are you doing with your life? I have several messages on purpose. I have several messages on you living a productive life. Go get those messages on YouTube. They will bless your life. They will help you greatly. So don't go out there and you're just living your life anyhow you want. That's not what you want. It's important, very, very key, that you live your life well. Live your life with purpose. Live your life productive. Be busy doing something that will help your generation. Be a solution provider. Be the one that gives solutions to people. Be the one that answers the question of people. Be the one that helps make life easy for people. When you do these things, it will help you. It will help you. You would have seen yourself exerting energy on something that will be purposeful, on something that will be productive, not wasting your time and hitting somebody with all that you've got. So, do something, all right? Do something meaningful. Be busy. If you're truly busy, if you're truly impactful, if you're truly changing your world, you won't have time to be abusive. And the final thing I'd like to share with you today on how to prevent domestic violence is that you have to seek marriage counseling. Now, I know, when we talk about seeking marriage counseling, many people say, oh, my marriage does not have a problem. My marriage is not having issues. So why should I seek a marriage counselor? Now, let me ask you, when you go to your doctor for checkup, do you necessarily have to be sick before you go to your doctors? Sometimes you just go to your doctor to check your system and make sure that you prevent a future occurrence of sickness. You prevent a sickness from coming because you are checking yourself. You're having a random check. Sometimes have a random check with a marriage counselor. I do marriage counseling, and I'm very, very good at it. Very, very good at it. And if you'd like to be part of my marriage counseling, it's not free. It's not free. It's for a fee. Just go ahead, let me know, chat me up, and let me take you through a marriage counseling session, and I believe that your marriage will be better for it. All right, so go through a marriage counseling session with the marriage counselor. Don't say, oh, my marriage is not hitting the rocks. It has to hit the rocks before I can go for a marriage counseling. That is not the right way to go. You don't say, oh, I'm going to leave my teeth until it decays before I begin to take care of it. No, you have to take care of your teeth from time to time before it gets worse. So you don't wait for things to get bad before you actually start looking for a marriage counselor. If you have a healthy marriage, a blissful marriage, you may need to go to a marriage counselor so that the marriage counselor can help you identify what it is that you are doing so that you do more of it and enjoy more of your marriage. So seek a marriage counselor that will help your marriage, that will help your relationship. So these are the few things I decided to share with you today on how to prevent domestic violence in marriage. I hope it has blessed you. I hope it has impacted you. Like I said before, share this video. Share this video to your friends, your relations, your associates, your neighbors. Let them join you because it's Checkpoint, okay? At Checkpoint, we edify you, we empower you, we educate you, and give you keys that will help you to become a better version of yourself. So what are you waiting for? Please make sure that you share this video to everyone, and then keep following us on social media, and don't forget to subscribe on my YouTube channel, and also click on the notification bell, because with that you get notification of new videos whenever I send them. Now, to recap all I said today, I said one of the ways through which you can prevent domestic violence. I said, number one, have the love for God. Number two, be educated. Number three, have high emotional intelligence. Number four, communicate effectively. Number five, avoid bad company. Number six, invest your energy in a purposeful and productive activity. And number seven, seek marriage counseling. I hope these pretty advices I gave you are very, very helpful, and I believe that you adhere to them, and that way you will overcome and prevent domestic violence in your relationship. The last thing I'd like to share with you before I leave your set is that know when to leave, okay? Know when to leave. When domestic violence has become prevalent in your marriage, know when to leave. Listen to me, I am an advocate for marriage. I believe so much in marriages. I am an advocate for a blissful, successful, happy home. But a time comes when you know that it's obvious that your life might be on the line, okay? You may need to step out of the marriage. And like I said before, leaving the marriage should not be the first thing that comes to your mind. You see, when you have headache, you don't use hammer to cut off your head or to knock off your head because you have headache, right? What do? You first of all think of treating it. You don't think of cutting off your head when you have a migraine. In the same way, when your marriage is having issues, when there is domestic violence in your marriage, try to fix it. So I will recommend these few steps. The first step is fixation. Try to fix your marriage. When you experience domestic violence, the first thing you should do is not to leave the marriage. When there is domestic violence and you have seen it the first time, you've seen the signs, please try to fix it. Go for marriage counseling. Pray. Look for ways. Learn. Educate yourself more on the need why domestic violence should not be in your marriage. Number two, a step I recommend is separation. In separation, you're just shifting away from the violent partner so that you will not die before your time, okay? Listen to me, God does not want you to die premature. The same God who hates divorce is the same God who hates premature death. God is not interested in you dying before your time. That is why I recommend separation. Separate from that violent spouse for that time being, while you figure out if he or she is able to resolve whatever is causing that domestic violence. In that time of separation, you can go for marriage counseling and still remain separated while the other person works on their behavior. So first step I recommend is fixation. Second step I recommend is separation. And then when separation has not worked, in the sense that after separation, he's still behaving violently, she's still behaving violently, that is only when you can go for the third step, that is divorce. And I'd like to tell you the honest truth. I do not like divorce. God does not like divorce. But the same God who hates divorce, that same God hates premature death. That same God hates murder. So you don't have to stay in a marriage till you die. You don't have to be a martyr in marriage. There's not like martyrs in marriage, all right? We are martyrs for our Christian faith. We are not martyrs for marriage. You don't have to die for your marriage. It is till death do you part, not till I kill you. The vows that you made while getting married is till death do us part, not till one of us kill each other. So please, there's a difference between the two. In a Nigerian parlance, there's a difference between I do and he do. I do means that I am willing to do everything to make sure that this marriage is working between us. He do means that I am done. I can't take it anymore. So before you go for he do, please, I want to beg you, go for fixation. Try to fix it using the marriage counselor with more education, with more information, reading quality books. I've written several wonderful books on marriage, and I can recommend them for you if you really want. Read these books and try to fix your marriage, and pray and ask God that he will bring the peace that passes all understanding in your marriage. And then when this is not working, separate while trying to still fix the marriage. Separate for a while so that both of you can actually come to your senses, and the person who is violent amongst the both of you will be able to reconcile and change their pattern. Okay, and then if this is not working, then the final stage is divorce. And if you must divorce, please make sure that it is done well. You don't have to be practical enemies, and you don't have to equally be friends. Just make sure that it's not messy. Just make sure it's not a terrible thing. Just make sure that you don't offend God in the process. Sometimes it is important that you divorce so that you can stay and serve your God in truth and in sincerity. I am wishing you well, and I am rooting for you. I know that these few things I've been able to share with you are very impactful. Please know when to leave and know when to hold on. Know when to stay. Know when to fix that marriage. Know when to separate, and also know when to divorce. I am wishing you well, and I believe that God will bless your marriage amazingly. Until I come your way again, keep making an indelible mark in the lives of people and on the sands of time. I love you so much. Bye-bye for now. Hi everyone, I hope you are blessed by that message. All right, so I want you to just go ahead and support us. If you are led, go ahead and just sow into the account right on the screen. And I know that as you do that, God will bless you big time. Because of the seeds you are sowing, you will be able to reach a wider audience on different platforms. So please do well to sow that seed, and God will bless you. Love you.